This is Ark Survival Evolved. I'm Diamond. Welcome to episode 9 of our island playthrough. At this point, it's time to actually get our Kibble Farm started. This is going to be kind of a multi-phase process, but we're going to need two things to begin with. Number one, we need something that's going to produce vegetables en masse, which means a greenhouse. Greenhouse we're going to build right over there. And we're also going to need to be mass producing dinosaur eggs. We're going to take those along with other ingredients and start cooking up kibble. Kibble's going to help us tame all of the dinos in the game way faster than we're doing right now. Like right now we've been taming up lower level dinos, things that are utility that are going to get the job done, like our Dodicarus, the Castoroid, things that are going to help us get there. But eventually we're going to want much more powerful dinosaurs so we can start taking on bosses in some of the harder caves. So what we want to do first is get our greenhouse started. In order to do that, it's actually a whole building category. I mean, most of you guys who've played this game for a while already know this, but if you're looking for greenhouse, it's right here in the 40s. So you got to pick all these guys. It costs a lot of points to get all these. So you can tell I had a ton of points in the previous episode, and now I'm down to almost nothing. But we'll eventually level up and get a bunch of those points back, but you're going to need to spend those in order to actually get some of the good stuff in the game. So what we're going to want is these greenhouse walls, ceilings, and doors. Once you have enough of a greenhouse structure, it'll actually boost the production speed on your crop plots, which for those we're going to take about 12 of them. There's 4 different vegetables that you're going to need in order to start producing kibble, and we're going to get those built now. But let's go ahead and get some wooden foundations built just so that we have some flooring, and then we'll be ready to start. All right, so I tend to do 12 plots, 4 plots for each of the different vegetables we're going to produce. So we're essentially going to need a 5x5 grid for our greenhouse. It'll take up a lot of space, but it's definitely worth it once the production starts. You're also going to want to, I tend to make it as close to water as possible, because you're going to need, in a moment, we're going to run plumbing over to this, and you don't want to have to, you don't want to have to do that over like long distances. All right, now that we've gotten the foundations built, like this is going to be the size of our greenhouse, we need to get the plumbing run. I tend to do that because you're going to need, I'm going to try to put it under the floors just so that it's hidden and it actually looks pretty good. So you're going to want to run that before you start putting in walls and ceilings. Now that our foundations are placed, and you'll notice it's like I said, it's a 5x5 grid because we're going to have 12 crop plots. So 1, 2, 3, 4 with a walk space in between. We know where the building is going to be. So now what I want to do is start running the plumbing underneath it. And we're going to need to pick the highest point. You'll notice when you start running these pipes, like I'll just put one down, we'll pick it up in a second. But you'll notice if we don't put it in the right spot, that one connects fine and you can see it, but if you try to run one here, it's there, but it's under the soil. So we need to get this to like the highest point in our structure, which this should be good enough. So if I do, and the way you can test that out is just by running a couple of pipes to see if you're able to see the resulting connections afterwards, and this actually looks just fine. So we'll line it up with this piece of foundation. If you notice the time the day changed, I actually ran out of resources, so I had to go get more fiber, which is the thing I'm constantly running out of, and then it turned into night. So I went ahead and waited until daylight so that you guys can actually see what's going on. But let me pick up these stone pipes here that I've already put down because they're just going to get in the way, and we'll run it for real. I try to get it lined up so that it's symmetrical. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, I wouldn't stress too much about it. Guys will try to get this absolutely perfect, and it's not that big of a deal. But you just do the best you can to run good plumbing. And you try to line it up with the foundation pieces. That actually looks pretty good. You kind of want to split the line of the foundation, and up at the very top, you try to get it to where it's just starting to clip into the next foundation piece. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's not that big of a deal, but like you'll notice it's kind of white on the top right there, and it just just barely clips in, then you know it's actually placed correctly. That actually looks pretty good. We're gonna try to put a vertical piece in just to test it out. Actually, no, I lied. We're gonna put in... Yeah, we'll put in one vertical piece just to make sure this lines up well. And that looks pretty good. Yeah, it clips right into the four corners of the foundation piece. Now, it's not in the right spot, so we're gonna have to get that corrected. Okay, there's our 4 taps. So you're gonna notice by just running a little bit of a plumbing grid, you're gonna get 4 taps positioned centered where you're gonna put your crop plot. So now what you need to do is run the piping down to the ocean. And then for here you need an intake. And there we go. So it's positioned. You'll notice the end of the intake is in the water. Now it's running water along all of the pipes, and we've got all 4 of them actually providing irrigation. So now at this point we can put all the foundations back. And there we go. So now we're ready for our crop plots. Now, I'm not gonna do it yet, but if you install S+, you can actually hide the connected pipes. So now you can't even see the irrigation, and then you just come back to this intake, and then you unhide the connected pipes. If it actually works. Show connected pipes, yep. So now you can see all your plumbing again. I'm gonna leave it for now, but we'll eventually cover that up so you can't see it. So now we don't need these pipes any longer. We can go ahead and store these, and we can start putting down our crop plots. Which we're gonna have 12. You're gonna notice that once we put them down, it's gonna start asking for 2 things. It needs fertilizer and it needs irrigation. So, but now that we've got our plumbing run, it's gonna tell us, well, in a second, it'll actually irrigate it. It'll tell us that it's irrigated. What we don't have for these is fertilizer, and that's gonna be the next thing that we're gonna get. And guys, I lied. We're not going to have 12. We're going to have 16. Let me make 4 more of these. There we go. 16 crop plots. We're going to need... So like I said, we're going to need 2 things. We need fertilizer and we need irrigation. So now you'll notice, after it's run a few times, these taps are actually providing irrigation. And in case you're wondering, you can actually just go straight to these for drinking water as well. But now we've got room to move around. I can put storage facilities, things like that in here just for convenience. That way it's not all cramped in. So let's go ahead and start building the walls of our greenhouse. All right, we're gonna put doors probably on 2 sides. So one on this side, one on that side. For walls... Oh, gonna have to destroy that. Then doors on either side. Because they're the SS doors, they'll actually open and close for us. Oh yeah, that was that wall I had to 1 second, let's fix this. Alright, so this should finish up the walls. And I'm pretty sure I have enough ceilings. Let's find out. Might be short a couple. Yep, need about 5 more. Alright, so there you go. So now, you'll notice greenhouse effect 300%. So it's going to boost the production value of all of these crop plots now that we've got this built. And it just looks a hell of a lot better than what it would inside this standard building. So now we're gonna need seeds. And we're gonna want 4 of them. 4 different types. We're gonna want our citronal, we're gonna want long grass. We don't need the berries. We're gonna want rock carrots, and we're gonna want savroot. Those are your basic 4 vegetables that we're gonna use to craft, well, all kinds of different things. Now for these, you're just gonna put, like say, citronal in 1. You really only need 1 seed in there. It'll actually it'll start the process for you, and it'll actually produce more seeds, so you don't need a whole ton of it. So now, we've got seeds planted in here. So citronal in here. We'll do long grass in this one. And then savroot in here. And then rock carrot in here. And you're gonna notice the last thing that we're missing. We're seeded, we're irrigated, we've got a good greenhouse effect, but we're not fertilized. So there's a couple ways to do this. Essentially, we need manure. So if I take this, and there's, like I said, we can throw manure in here, and that'll provide, you'll notice, 7,500 fertilizer. Now the seed started, so it's beginning to grow. Now fertilizer, your basic manure is fine, but it's not the best way to do it. What we're gonna want instead of just straight manure is gonna be actual fertilizer. And for that, we're gonna need some fertilizer bins. Oh, there we go. Compost bins, sorry, is what I meant to say. Usually I try to do maybe about 4 of these. Now if you're not using the SS version of these, they're noisy, so you're gonna wanna put them a little distance away from everything else so you don't have to hear it. Like I'll put a couple of them down and you'll hear what I'm talking about. Hear the buzzing of the flies? You're gonna hear that constantly if you've got that right next to your base. Unless you're doing the SS version, and then those will actually quiet down for you. So for these bins, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put manure, or we're gonna put feces and thatch in here. And once we've got that, it'll actually start to produce fertilizer. And fertilizer will do a hell of a lot better job than just straight feces will. Now, in order to get a whole bunch of feces, I mean, we can kind of hang out near the dinos and pick it up every time that they poop, or there's a certain dino that we can go get that'll actually help us out quite a bit with that, and we're gonna go do that now. Now you're gonna notice we didn't have to travel all that far. This is a Pioma. This one's a level 10, which is perfect because we want low-level stuff. And now that we have an RG, we're just gonna run over, grab this guy, and take him back to our home. Now you're gonna notice, now that we've taken him away from his spawn point though, we need to keep sight of him, because if we get too far away from him, he'll despawn. If you leave if you leave dinos alone, they'll stick around in the game world for a really, really long time. But if you move them around from where they originally spawned, they'll tend to go away pretty quickly. Now this guy, we gotta be careful. He's like super low level, so we don't want to kill him. But we're gonna use Ebola. Tie him up. Shoot him in the face. That should be enough. Now he's out, and we're gonna give him some berries, and we're gonna tame him. And you'll see how fast this guy, this is just with Mejo berries. One this low level will just tame up super fast, so I'm gonna wait just a second until he finishes. And there we go. That took literally 2 minutes. All right, let's move this guy over here where it's a little safer. Now it's low level, so there's gonna be some limitations. We'll eventually get one that's much higher level, but this guy has a pretty specific purpose. So we're gonna let him sit right there. We're gonna switch his behavior to passive so he doesn't go anywhere. And then we're gonna grab some berries. Basically what we want this guy for is this. If we put the stem berries on the inside and we feed them, so we just gotta force feed him, we'll give him some actual food there too. But if we force feed him stem berries, you notice his food stat is going way down. But this gives us a ton of feces. And then just like that, we're in business. So by the time this finishes and produces fertilizer, his food will fill back up again, and we'll be able to do this again. So basically you need 3. And then we'll just stick the extra in there too. So that's it. So we've got all the feces that we need. Now we need some thatch. So let's go get some thatch. We got our thatch cart here, and since thatch is just super easy to come by, and there we go. So we've got 50 and 3. So 3 feces, 50 thatch, and it starts producing, and it's gonna start producing fertilizer. Now that's actually gonna take some time to finish, so we'll just let that run for a while, but in the meantime, we'll get some more fertilizer out of him. There, his food is filled back up. Now, one thing to keep in mind though, he's using the feeding troughs to eat, and it's gonna start draining the berries out of these feeding troughs pretty quickly if you're doing a ton of this, so just keep an eye on your feeding troughs, just make sure he doesn't completely drain you out. But now that his food is filled back up again, we're gonna do some more. There we go. And while we're waiting for the fertilizer to actually finish, we'll be able to put some just regular feces in here just to get these started. You'll notice you probably saw it there, it consumes the seed as it starts to grow. Yeah, you'll notice once it's started, you don't have to get into the inventories manually. You can just, as long as you've got, just hit E. Well, I'm not sure what it is on a controller, but as long as you actually have fertilizer available, it'll chuck it in there for you. And that's it. That's a fully functional greenhouse. Now, eventually I'm gonna put probably a preserving bin, we'll put some basic storage, we'll get a few accessories in here just to help us out. store some seeds. We'll have some places, once we get electricity, we'll actually put a refrigerator in here too, just to store all our vegetables. But this is the basic structure. It's a fully functional greenhouse. We're gonna get all of the vegetables that we need out of here, and we just basically just need to let it run. We need to use this guy to refill the compost bins that we have over here, and that'll produce fertilizer. Fertilizer will do a way better job than just straight up feces, and you'll be able to stockpile it a lot better so that you have to do less and less maintenance on this. But we'll just let that run for now. The next thing that we're gonna start doing is we need the other half of a kibble farm is gonna be all of the eggs, and for that we're gonna need some dino platforms. Alright, so we've got some wooden structures built. So for kibble you need eggs, and for eggs you're gonna need a bunch of dinosaurs. For the dinosaurs, I tend to like to use platforms. If you use platforms with ramps, you can actually, and I'll show you, it might take like an episode or two before we get things like completely set up, but you're gonna see how much easier it is when you can actually get the dinos kind of propped up in the air, and then collect the eggs as they drop down. But we're gonna need, I would say, 6 of these. And then I tend to go 3 over. And then 6 here. Okay, there we go. 6 and 6. And then we're gonna build ramps all the way across. And there's 3 dinos that I tend to start with. I tend to like to use turtles, or carbonaris, I believe. I don't even know how to actually pronounce the official name of them. But I tend to line up 6 turtles, 6 therizinosaurs, and then up at the top, we're gonna do Argies. So let me get up to the top, let me get a few more platforms built, and I'll show you where we put the Argies. Alright, so you noticed that by placing a ramp on the railing, it then let us start throwing down foundations, which then let us put down, we could get rid of those ramps and then put more foundations down. And essentially we tricked the game into letting us put foundations, oops, across the top here. So now we have like a little foundation roof, which is fine. It actually looks pretty good. I mean, I can put some more struts on the side so that it doesn't look so heavy on the top, but I may not actually do that. Well, let me get one more ramp here. Okay, and that's the last of the ramps now that you'll need, at least for the moment. Now, I mean, Ark has a nice way of moving dinos slightly as they spawn in, so you're likely, if you put a bunch of Argies, which, by the way, I don't know if I described, this is where the Argies are gonna go, so you're gonna have room for 6 of them up here with the ramps, and when they lay eggs, the eggs are gonna fall down these ramps. And it's the same thing over there. When I have therizinosaurs and turtles over here, the eggs are gonna fall down towards the bottom of the ramp, or at least stick to the top of the ramp, and we can actually just run right here, run down the line and collect all the eggs. So it just makes it really, really easy. But when you're up here, just so you're not having to deal with guys falling off all the time, you just put, oh, messed it up. You just put railings all along the side. Try not to mess it up as much as I do. You don't want to put, I don't put the separators here just because I want to be able to move stuff around a little bit. But putting these railings right here will just make sure that you're not coming back to your base and the Argies are falling off constantly, because then you're just having to pick them back up again. And that's it. I mean, we've got this area here and there, like I said, for diners that we're going to use, our RG's somewhere down there. But anyway, he would sit up here, the one we're actually using, and the ones we're using for eggs are going to go up here. And then we'll toss some more railings on the side here. It just helps us manage everything. So let me do that really quick. All right, and that should be it. Now, obviously, see, this gives us plenty of space to come down the middle. It gives us lots of room to put therizinosaurs and turtles down here, and it gives us a little bit of a railing as a barrier. If you find this isn't enough, like if they're, especially therizinosaurs, they're actually much taller, so they might be able to get over one of these ramps, then you can just double up the, you can just double it up. I'm not going to do that for now, but that's an option if you start running into problems. And that is about it for the basic structure. Now, there's several different types of kibble. This will give us 3 different types, which is what we're going to start with, but eventually we're going to build up to all of them. But this is our basic layout here. We're going to put all of our tamed animals up here. We've got the RGs there, therizinosaurs, turtles here, and we've got a fully built greenhouse to produce all of the vegetables that we're going to need for cooking. There's obviously still a few more steps to go, and the sun's finally coming up. Sorry if it was dark and you guys couldn't see. I kind of did the best I could with the gamma, but anyway, that'll get us started. So as we're waiting for the vegetables to grow and we're stockpiling everything, we're building up fertilizer, we're going to need to start taming. So I think next episode, what we're going to do is head around and get all of the basic low-level dinos that we need to start producing eggs. But again, guys, I appreciate all the support on these. I hope you guys are enjoying the content, and I will see you on the next episode.